do a VTAC?
Sure.
Do people do VTACs out with a shotgun? I've never seen that.
Yeah, if I miss that, it's going to be really bad.
I'll definitely do these.
Reload. Alright. Take time behind cover. That's not great. Important to put your thumb all the way in the hole. That's what she said. But not your glove. Alright. Oh, this is kind of hurt. I can't see. Oh, it's so bad. Empty again. For all you folks at home, I'm not doing the ones where I lay on my head. There we go. Ah. Oh, that sucked.
Hey everybody, welcome back to Triple F Shooting. Hope everyone had a good Christmas and New Year. And we are back at the video stuff after chasing children around, and my house is markedly more loud now. We made the mistake of buying my kids a keyboard. Oh, anyway, new year, new stuff. Hopefully you got cool stuff at Christmas, and tax time is coming around, so that means everyone's going to go out and buy crap. So, speaking of stuff you could buy, Cyelee sent me another red dot. So we've already looked at the Wolf 2, which is an RMR footprint. We put this on the Glock 34 and beat on it a bunch, and I threw it in some water and all that good stuff, and things still running. This has since been on a couple other people's pistols, and they actually really enjoyed it. So it's doing well. Figured to give you an update there. But this one, and I'll take it off of the shotgun, is the Wolf X Pro. So very similar to the Wolf 2 with some upgrades, in my opinion. The kind of just general use is a little bit nicer on this one. You have some optic reticle options instead of just that big donut of death. You can swap between a few different reticles, and we've got some other just physical differences that we'll go over. But we, instead of throwing it on a pistol, tested it on this Pinelli Supernova and proceeded to shoot lots of buckshot from 2 3/4 to 3-inch 12 pellet.
Breech load. Arms get tired. I like the stock card though.
And then a crap load of 1 ounce high velocity, like 1650 feet per second, slugs.
6 slugs.
Just to see how this would handle. Before I take it off, I used a GG&G optic mount. I didn't know it existed. I was just kind of looking around, and it's a really cool setup. It's very minimalistic. You don't have to do the entire pick rail. You just get this nice little machined piece of aluminum that mounts directly to the kind of humped shape of the receiver, so it mates up really nice. We have better views out on the range of it. The only thing that I did notice, that whether it be like a tolerance stack up or something's a little oversized on one side or the other, the kind of locking pins that are part of the RMR footprint, I don't know if you can see that, but at the front of the optic there are 2 holes that made up to studs on the base plate, and they seem to be just a little oversized on this. I can actually see just a hair of daylight under there. That didn't seem to affect the shooting all that much. We did have a little bit of a point of impact shift toward the end of the video that we'll get into, but just, you know, all straight up and honest, like, the mount is sitting just slightly off of being fully seated. So, you know, if I can see daylight, we're probably talking like 15, 20 thousandths of an inch or something like that. So, don't know if that's on the mount or on the optic, but figured we'd talk about it. So, I'm going to take this off real quick. So, like the last optic, it does come with the correct torque head Allen. I guess it's not really an Allen, but the torque head wrench. To me, anything that's shaped like this is a Allen key, but we're keeping the names correct. Alright, so just like the Wolf Pro, it comes with a smattering of different hardware to mount with, which was really nice, so that depending upon what kind of base plate you're going to, you can connect it. So here is, I don't know if you'll see it on camera, but we've got bag after bag after bag of mounting hardware, which is a really nice touch for them to ship that with it. I'm going to go ahead and get this out of the way because it's not really the subject of the video. Maybe. Alright. Okay, so on your left we have, that was deer hair on your right. On your left we have the Wolf X, and on your right we have the Wolf 2. I think you can see it a little easier on this one. It's actually on the other side. Anyway, what you're getting in the short version is a beefed up with some more options version of the Wolf 2 when you buy the Wolf X. So on the Wolf 2 you can see the battery cap is kind of up inside, similar to like what you'd see on maybe a loophole delta point, but you do have to have a torque wrench to get that thing loose, and it's not like a pain in the butt or anything. It's just a little more involved taking that out and getting up in there and getting the battery in place and screwing it back down, and being careful not to like strip any of the aluminum threads or anything like that when you're reattaching. You also have your adjustments on both sides of the optic. So your increased brightness or your plus button is on the left, and your off for a long hold or decreased brightness is on the right, and then your adjustments are still on the top and right side, and they're just kind of flush mounted so that you really can't change them without using a tool, which is a good thing. You don't really want those being adjusted on the fly, especially on a handgun, where things are moving quite a bit and going in and out of holsters. The optic itself also, or I'm sorry, the glass itself is also inset from the body of the optic by a little bit, which is good. And you have a rounded top, so that if it does fall on it, you're going to impart, you know, pressure to the glass pretty directly. On the Wolf 2, or I'm sorry, on the Wolf X, you can see pretty immediately that it's a little bit more sturdy built around the glass itself. You have a flat, and I'm assuming that the glass inside is still rounded, and then this is kind of flat, so it helps disperse force a little better if it were to be dropped, you know, anywhere on top. It's not a direct impact or direct force being put on the glass. You have some meat between there. It does create a little bit of a thicker presentation window, but it's nothing that you notice too bad. Your adjustments for the actual optic zeroing are in the same place with a flush mount on the right, and you actually do have some protection on the top. I don't know if that's totally necessary, but it's a nice touch. You are absolutely not going to get anything to damage the top. The right is still flush mount because they're trying to keep things as smooth and svelte as possible. You can see that we have a battery tray instead of a big giant battery cap down in the center. So that battery tray, while making it a little bit easier to get to, it does decrease the battery size by a little bit. I think there we're using a 1632 instead of a 2032. So you can kind of take that for what it's worth. You see more 2032s out, but 1632s are still available. And battery life is still going to be pretty good because it still includes shake awake, all that good stuff. So you're not constantly burning up your battery. Your controls have been moved to the same side for your increase and decrease in brightness. Holding down on the decrease is going to give you your off. Tapping up turns it on, and then holding up actually changes your reticles. This really sucks to do on camera. I'll see if I can get anything to show up. Try to get that square for you, or I'm just going to hold still and let the camera do its thing. So if you can see it right now, it's probably just a big bloom. That is the large donut, if you will, the 62, 63 MOA ring with a center dot. I doubt it's focused because it never does. If I hold the up button, it's probably still just a big bloom, but should be just a 3 MOA dot. Again, if I hold the button, now it should go to just the ring. Again, I don't know if any of that's going to translate on camera. It never really focuses right, so you just see like a big giant red dot there no matter what. But if I do it one more time, I go back to the ring with the center dot, which for me looks just fine. For you, probably doesn't. So again, if I hold down on there, I should get it to turn off. I can't see the little light up front anymore, so it's off. But it is definitely a sturdier built with a little bit better features on it, and obviously more features as far as reticle choice. Same footprint as the Wolf 2, and pretty much the same size. There's not really a height difference to speak of. Not much by any means anyway. They are almost exactly the same length. You do have a little bit more width on the Wolf X. Mainly what you're seeing there is that on the Wolf 2, they just have a raised section to cover the buttons, and on the Wolf X, the entire body covers your buttons and they're actually inset. So instead of just having the sidewall with a raised section to cover the button, you are beefed up all the way around. So, like I said, summarization, much sturdier built, a little bit better quality of life for me with the battery tray and the buttons all on the same side, and then your reticle options. So let's put it back on the shotgun and talk about it some. For what we were doing with a shotgun, the donut with the center dot was great because on high speed, up close, things like buckshot shooting at defensive ranges, that nice big reticle is a very quick, okay, I'm on, bam. For 25 yard, we had kind of a wide spread, 2 low ones. This is putting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So the whole pattern, we got 1 flyer high from the last shot, but much better pattern at 10 yards. That guy is super not alive. And you're throwing your buckshot right where it needs to go. For more accurate work, you focus on that center dot and sling your slug or whatever it is you're doing. If you were only going to run buckshot, I guess you could run just the ring with no center dot. That would be maybe one application for that. Or if you were actually going to try to like shoot skeet with this thing. That's one thing I really want to do, and there will probably be a video at a later date of attempting to shoot clay birds with this, because most of the time, I mean, you never really see competitive shooters with red dots. I don't know if that's just out of rules or what, but it would be kind of fun to see if it enhances anything or if it's, you know, mostly for tactical work. But or you could go for the standard dot. I would probably go with just the dot if I was going to put this on a handgun like we did with the Wolf 2, which was actually one of my only real complaints. Was for a handgun, I would have preferred just the dot, so the Wolf X gives you that option. Neat. So, the actual shooting of the thing.
Alright. Breech load. Arms get tired. I like the stock card though. really hard to tell with the shot cups. Definitely a hit. Definitely a hit. Probably that was. So I threw one. These two are pretty decent. So
it worked. We didn't have any issues with it. Again, I can show you the most difficult part of mounting it was actually getting this GG&G plate onto the Benelli, because you have to partially disassemble the gun to get up into these little plugs and then mount the thing. So this mounted very sturdy. We used a little bit of blue Loctite, as you should, and then threw this guy on there. That's the two. So this setup, pretty nice right on front. You're still not going to be able to see it on camera, but I do have a minor gap here only on the front side, like it's lifted on those studs that you probably can't see at that distance. But I don't know if those studs are just too tall or if these holes aren't maybe quite deep enough. I did not have that issue with the, I guess we can figure that out real quick. So the Wolf 2 sits in almost the exact same position, so it could be that this mount maybe has a little bit too much height on these studs, so if I wanted to, I could file those down a little bit and probably get a better setup going. But so drop it on, use the provided torque head bolts, take my torque key. One thing that they stress, which is kind of nice, they send a whole bunch of cards on how to zero, how to mount, all that stuff. And they do stress, don't just slam one side all the way tight at once, jump back and forth so you're getting an even purchase and you don't end up like over tightening one side and the other side loose, because you can get movement issues if the thing is not put on correctly. But as you can see, if you're just putting it to whatever kind of plate that accepts RMR, it's very quick and simple. I just bounce back and forth a few times, making sure we're good and tight. And we are back in the position that we operated from when we were shooting this thing. So, running on the shotgun, I don't know that it provides as much shock and force as a handgun slide, having to stop back and forth very, very quickly under the operation of the gun. But Slugs definitely put down quite a bit of shock. I didn't have my flashlight mount, also a GG&G thing. I just had it really tight as I could get my fingers on it, and while we were shooting a barricade drill, that thing at the very end of it just kind of, bleh.
there we go.
Gave up the ghost and came off from going in and out of the barricade and under the shock of Slugs. So it's not like we didn't put this thing through some, oomph. But shot everything from 2 3/4 to 3-inch buckshot, and then lots of slugs through it. And we did the grouping with slugs, so we can go ahead and show you how that did.
Probably that was. So I threw one. These two are pretty decent. So not a bad group. Let's go see how it patterns with buckshot now that we know that we're hitting.
After we did all of the different shooting with it, I think I ran somewhere on the odds of about 50 rounds of buckshot, the 2 3/4, about 20 rounds of the 3-inch 12 pellet, and then probably, I want to say we did 30 slugs through it. So by the end of that, my arm was kind of like, okay, I'm done with you. And it handled all that shock pretty well. Again, this is just the initial impression. We're going to continue to, I actually really, really like this setup. And after seeing what the Wolf 2 could handle, I don't feel like this thing is going to have any trouble riding on this shotgun. And it does make a higher presentation for my cheek weld, so instead of being way down in here when I fire off a slug and get lots of slap, it's not something you're going to notice in an actual situation where you have to use it. But if you're out on the range just doing stuff for fun, that eventually gets old. Being able to raise up just a little bit made the recoil way more pleasant, faster sight acquisition, because I don't have to line up rear and front irons, I can just look, there's my dot, bang. So, and as you can see in the video, it made that part pretty easy. We made a short as well where loaded slug, we're about 25 yards, brought up, boom, and just picked his nose with the thing. So I was really happy with how that worked out. At the very end of the shooting, we also ran another group test. So we did have a slight point of impact shift.
Yeah, we're definitely low. Let's see how the group holds up. So good. All right, so point of aim, point of impact, got 2 touching, 1 a little bit lower than that, probably me. So we've shifted down a hair after all the banging around and stuff. We're gonna look at the mount and see if anything's changed on that, but we're still holding groups, so the optic's still being consistent, but I'm thinking maybe something has shifted a little on the mount.
Again, to permanently mount this, I am probably going to file a little bit off of those studs to take the height down so I can get completely flush, because no matter how tight I've got that, if I'm kind of balancing on those, I imagine I'm going to get some kind of movement. Given how that was set up, I'm willing to blame that on, I had a point of impact shift of about 2 inches after all the slugs and the barricade drill and all the buckshot and everything. It still grouped really well though, so I don't think the optic itself is losing zero and moving around a bunch. I believe it's my optic. If it was spraying the slugs all over the place, I would think the system inside here was, shifting all over the place with each shot. But the fact that it grouped well at the beginning and the end, I just had that point of impact shift. I'm gonna have to fix the mount. Okay, so for the tough part for everybody is usually how expensive is this thing. It is more expensive than the Wolf 2. So Wolf 2 was running around 130 to 150 bucks. You can get them on Amazon, or you can buy them direct from Cyelee on their website. So that one is not quite as expensive, but you're stuck with the one reticle. Some people like that, so that's totally fine. And it's not quite as sturdy built, and then some of the controls, it's mostly preference in my opinion. Like I said, I've had a couple other people borrow this thing, mount it up, shoot it, really liked it, so this is not a bad optic by any stretch. I think what we're getting at with the Wolf X is a much sturdier build, obviously a little more aggressive looking, a little more tactical, so you can bang around on it with your pistol slide and all that good stuff. And then you have some improved controls in my opinion, and battery placement, stuff like that. This one is running around $250 depending upon where you get it, and you can find sales and things like that, but if you jump on Amazon right now, I think it's around $250, $260. So they did, however, provide me with a link, so if you are watching, there's a link in the description below for 20% off, so that's pretty cool. And we appreciate them sending this out to us to bang around on and punish both myself and the optic with slugs and whatnot. All that being said, thanks for watching Triple F Shooting. We'll see you in the next video. Hope you enjoy the red dot.